Welcome and welcome back. Today, I want to get into designing your life, coming from a designer. I have used this method for quite some time, and I wanted to share with you this method, this ideology, this thinking, these methods, this process. As we get into the new year, as we get into the spring equinox, or if there's ever a time where you feel stuck in your life, I think this is a great tool to take a step back, get a perspective, and look at everything and unstuck yourself in a way where you know how to move through and ideate and come up with new solutions for your life because we have so much experiences to have and we have such a limited time on this floating little rock we have. So, with that, I want to get into a little bit about what the philosophy is or just the thinking behind it. Most people think that in order to design their life, they need a vision and a lot of goals. And while a vision is important to have as a shining star, it's not set in stone. We're going to need to be flexible and pivot. And goals really are a to-do list. They're tasks that we want to accomplish, they're milestones that we want to make sure that we meet, but they're not the be-all, end-all. We want to reformat and rethink and reframe how we're approaching designing our life. And so we have to make sure that when we have a vision. They are in alignment with our desires and our passions. And that sounds really obvious, but sometimes we tend to have goals that we set or ways in which we see our lives that really fit a narrative from other people. We may think that we need to do certain things in a certain way, in a certain sort of time frame, in a certain cadence, because that's either what most people do, that's the norm. And we tend to, without even knowing, kind of sabotage ourselves because we're putting ourselves in places where we think that's just what is going to be accepted. And so this is the place where when we're designing our lives, we can do anything. And that's really freeing and exciting and also nerve-wracking and overwhelming because there's so many choices and so many ways that you can go. When we think about designing our life, we want to think about us as the center of it. We're the center of our universe. And so when we think about a vision in our life, what we really just want to understand is who are we? Like, who is at the core? And so, how we look at ourselves, how we have our self identity and our self concept, our values, all brings together this sense of us and who it is that we're designing for. And so, as a designer, we would work with companies and we would work either in house or with businesses, different projects. And we have an understanding first of the brand itself and the company. And then we understand the customers, the clients, who we're targeting, who we're building these products and services for. And then we look at how do we tie that all together and put that in a story, put that in a way that explains it, entices people, they understand it. Or we're building something that's very utilitarian. We're building something that is of need, of value, but also might have a little extra. And so over the years, I've really taken this really clear process of designing products and services, and I started to apply it into my life in a way where it helped remove me emotionally from what I was doing, and it made me become more of a scientist, an artist, an experimenter, an explorer, where I can detach and I can look at things from a high perspective across all areas of my life. And it allowed me to have a really honest conversation with things that weren't really going very well to making them go very, very well, where I didn't really like what was going on, or when I looked at that area of life, it wasn't as fulfilling as it could be. And instead of getting, thoughts in my head or emotional about it, I was able to take a step back and figure out, well, what is it that I actually want? What do I want to see? And then how do I start getting there? And so this starts to become a way of looking at our lifestyle, looking at our standards in our life, and how to bring that all together. And so this is really fun, especially when we think of our own lives and being creative and bringing that extra special element in the daily life and being able to add these little things. And you probably already create your own life or have a way about the way you like to live. But I just wanted to give a broader perspective because I've noticed that we tend to be really good in certain areas of our life, but not in all areas of our life. And when we look at these charts and these graphs about, life cycles and life categories and how do we start looking at self-development, we tend to miss a category that I think is really, really important. And so I want to break that down so we have these tools. And so I want you to remember that when you're designing your life, you're at the center of it. And there's a way that I want you to think about it where you're somewhat detached from you and your identity, where you can look at it objectively and you can start to see how you're painting the self-concept of yourself with how you live your life, the boundaries that you have, the values that you have, the standards that you have, the way in which you run your day, the way in which you move, and what you want to do, where you're at and where you want to go. And a lot of times when we feel really stuck or we're not quite there yet, it feels like a long process. But in fact, it can happen pretty quickly when we set ourselves up in the right way because we're actively doing something towards it in one capacity or another, whether we're thinking about it, whether we're feeling it, whether we're actually taking action on it. And so you are the universe. You are at the center core of your life and you are your universe. And so every area and aspect that is in your universe should have a touch of your love, should have a touch of your attention and growth within it. When we think about self-development and living our best lives, it's taking the time to have these thoughtful concepts, these thoughtful contemplations about the areas in our life and how we want them to grow and how we want to nurture them and continue to have them evolve. And when we really understand this concept and we understand how it is that we're at the center of this, then we really start to get into the energetics of designing our life. And the energetics really is being able to bring your attention in the place that you want it. So there's two main concepts to understand. One is the vision that you want to hold, and we'll go into some depth about what that is. And then two is the energy that you hold within you and where you're directing it and putting it in your attention. So a vision really, again, is that integrity, it's that high value, it's that honor, it's the way that we want to develop ourselves. And it is also an understanding of what it is that we want to experience. What are our desires? What do we want? What do we want to create in this world? What do we want to do? We can do anything. And so a vision, I feel like can sometimes feel like a fantasy when we have too many details, when we have too many things that we understand, where this is more of how do I want my career to go? How do I want my work to go? How do I want my relationships to go? What is the feeling and exchange that I want to have with them? And I want to also have enough room to allow for new experiences to come in so that I may try something and I may realize I may not like it. So I need to pivot, but that took me into a place that I needed to go into. So we want the flow and the flexibility of life to come through because that's the most exciting part. Some of the most memorable moments of my life came out of nowhere. It was like a miracle coming in. I couldn't have planned it any better. I couldn't have even thought that was something that could even happen. But I also put myself in the right places and followed intuition, followed soul-led guidance. Still keeping your logic and your strategy with you. It's like using everything to put you in those places or to set you up in the right way. A vision should excite you and it should allow you to have room to grow. It could be a mission, it could be passion. All of this is fuel. This vision, this mission, this passion, this way in which you want to live your life. This is fuel. But the fuel has to be directed somewhere, right? You have a tank of gas and you got a car, and you at least want to know, I'm going to go north, south, east, or west. I may not know my destination. Some people need to know a destination, but I may not know my destination, but I know that's the direction I want to go in. And so when we take that fuel, that vision, that mission, that passion that we have for our lives, for our creativity, we need to be strategic about where we direct it. So that fuel is strategic. That fuel is for us to be strategic with. And we want to be able to direct that energy, that fuel, anywhere that we want. That's hopefully in our best interest. And so before we even begin designing our life, we want to take an assessment. We want to really kind of understand who we are, who we're serving. We're serving ourselves. And that is not a selfish thing at all, because happy people should be walking around this earth a lot more than angry or sad people. So we want to be happy, want to get to have the life that we want to create as best we can and do what we can with the resources we have. And then we build a foundation. And then we start to look at specifics on what it is that we want to go towards, what it is we want to magnetize towards us, what is it we want to go towards, how do we want to set ourselves up in the right positions to get the things, to do the things that we love. And so that foundation that we want to build is really a support system to make sure that we're running our energy very well. What does this mean? Energy, running things smoothly. So I want you to think about energy as the things that motivate and drive you, right? It's the force of nature within you that propels you forward, that holds you back. And it's also understanding within this complexity of being a human, when emotions come up, that they don't sway you and that you know how to pull back into center. And that when thoughts arise that can run away with wild imagination and put you into tailspins of, falling into the depths of wherever, you can pull yourself back or wherever it goes, right? No matter where the emotions, the thoughts, no matter if life comes in and just kind of sideswipes you out of nowhere, we still know how to center. We still know how to kind of get back and take all of that energy, that fuel, those emotions, and bring them back in. We're not releasing out energy. And so that's a skill in itself. And these are the skills we want to build. We want to understand that when we have a bad day, we can know that there's a good day right after that. Or if we have a bad moment, we know that we can get out of that and get back into a good moment. It can take some steps. And so we've got this understanding of a vision. We have this understanding of how we run our energy. And this is where we can start to build our foundation. And so within this foundation, you have 8 categories, 8 areas of life that I want you to look at. And within these 8 categories, there are 4 main pillars. And these 4 main pillars are non-negotiable that must be tended to on a daily basis. If we can tend to these on a daily basis, and because you're designing this, you can have as much fun with this as you want, you're deciding how this works. But these 4 pillars, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, must be well maintained as the foundation for everything that you build in your life. So, what does that mean? It means in your physical body, you need to be attentive to your physicality. You need to be attentive to what you put in your body, how much sleep you have, how much water you have, how well are you eating, your nutrition, your exercise routines. These are non-negotiables. We want to have a great life. We have to maintain, manage, nurture, care for. So we have a physical aspect that we need to take care of. Our emotional aspects. How are we getting the care and the support that we need from ourselves first? I think that's really vital and important that we know how to self-nurture and self-care. And then we will know the kind of support we need more specifically that helps us in the areas that we're still struggling with. So it's a really great balance. We understand the importance of honoring the emotions that come up, not pushing them down, being able to have communication, express ourselves. And we're always working through this, but there's a conscious awareness of this. Like there's a conscious awareness that we're actively participating in this game of life and that we have an understanding of an emotional and energetic exchange. Then we have the mental aspect. And so this is, how are we allowing the thoughts, the stories, the beliefs, the mindsets run our lives? Are they in agreement with what we really see about ourselves, or are we, do we tend to self-sabotage? This happens, right? Or do we allow doubt to come in or fear to come in? How are we allowing rest? Are we allowing our mind to ease? Are we overthinking? Are we allowing anxiety and stress to take us over? How are we positioning ourselves when thoughts come in and we need to have a conversation with ourselves about what's true and what's not true? And right, we're keeping everything in balance. And at this higher level, right, if we're looking at everything in the foundation of our energy, I just want to give you at a higher level what these elements are. And so the fourth element is spiritual. And we don't see this as much in conversations about designing your life. I haven't found. And I think this is really important, that it's not just, what do you worship, but how are you in communion with your spirit? Spirituality is one of those topics that is a really hard topic to talk about because everyone is going to differ in their belief system. But the sense that you feel a connection to something higher than yourself, you feel a high connection to yourself, and that gets nurtured on a regular basis. I was looking at a study that said a lot of people categorize themselves as spiritual, but the practice itself is very thin. You know, it's maybe a yoga class here or there, or they're meditating once or twice a month, which isn't really very much. Journaling is a superpower to be able to write down things that are coming through, insights that you have, your intuitions. And so when we build this solid foundation, if we're eating right, sleeping right, we're regulating our emotions, we're being able to push ourselves in ways, we're really contemplating life, we really understand what's behind everything in our mindset. We really know who we are and what we believe, and we're, putting ourselves in a way where it's, some things are set in stone, but we're also flexible to stretch and grow and expand. And then we have this spiritual aspect to ourselves, this essence of life that really we can't pinned down. It's sort of that sort of that essence is what the creative is so good at doing. And so when we design our life, we want to really not lose that at all. That's actually a really key piece to have of like you putting in that essence, that spiritual essence within your life that makes it yours. And so when we have these four pillars, anything that you want to do, any of your desires, any of your visions are absolutely possible because you're setting yourself up for success. And this foundational piece, it's like building a house, right? You can build a house anywhere, but you want to make sure that it's on solid ground. You want to make sure that you have a solid stationary place that's not going to sink, that can weather whatever you're going to build on top of it. And so these four pillars are your compass, and this is how you navigate your path. The other four areas are important as well, and we build on top of them. So when we look at this as a graph, it looks pretty flat, right? We always see this in sort of 2D format, but really we have pillars that come up, and then we have these other branches that come out of that. So when we think about physicality, we also want to think about, where are we living? What kind of environments are we putting ourselves in? What sort of, experiences are we having with travel and adventures? Are we allowing ourselves to explore new places? When we look at financial, what are we doing with our money? This is also kind of in the physical realm. How are we looking at our investments? How are we planning for the future? How are we maintaining or adding to the wealth that we have and that we want? And then you have career, you have your vocation, you have things that you have a calling to, which also can get into education. You have social aspects. You have relationships, family relationships, romantic relationships, friend relationships. How are you building that? Are you part of a community? Are you looking at ways in which you can expand your emotions, your thoughts, your intellect, and maybe come together for a higher good, like something that's a little more spiritual, a little more divine, a little more, something that there's a common thread between that. We talked about education, but how are you also like expanding your own intellect? How are you looking at new skills that you want in your life? Or are you developing new skills in your life, or new hobbies, or new ways about you that are just could be really fun, trying new things, new techniques, exploring and adding to this like fabric of life. And so when you start to look at this, like this circle of all these little areas of life and you being in the center, we've already established quite a few things about you so that it should be really easy to start brainstorming and ideating about what it is that you might want to do. So a lot of times people know they have to work out and they don't want to, but we need to, and they kind of dread going to the gym. But there are hundreds of ways you could work out. You could do things with your body that would be fun, that would be engaging, that you'd enjoy and look forward to go and do. Or it could just be as simple as going for a walk and finding really fun places. So now you're doing physical, now you're looking at your environment, now you're looking at different ways that you can explore. Maybe you do something with a group. Maybe you go for hikes or you go for walks with a group. And so we're expanding our life and we're doing things that we really love. And so every aspect of your life is now a way that you can start to brainstorm, what would excite me? If I needed to fill this bucket, if I needed to grow this area, what would be the most exciting thing I'd want to learn? Finances. How do I invest my money? How do I bring in more revenue? How do I take care of what I already have? Maybe I'm super happy with everything and I just want to make sure that I grow that even more. What skills am I learning to understand how to maybe do better business or skills in a career? How do I want to grow? How am I looking at my relationships? Do I have a good close circle of friends? Maybe my interests are changing and now I need to find new groups of people because I'm evolving. Maybe there are all kinds of ways. There might be some visions in your life that you want to take to the next level. So now you can start to see, well, I might need to do some research. I might want to go and explore some options. I might want to meet more people that maybe are from that area or learn that language. And so I'm going to branch out. And we start to really look at how our life can be designed in a way where we're really engaging with the core of who we are. We're excited about what we're doing. We have a vision of life, and we can find really fun ways to move about. And so I want to take you into another concept. When we have a map of who we are and all the different areas of life and where we might want to go, now we're going to have to get into specifics. For example, let's stick with physical because I think everybody can relate to physical fitness, working out, whether you do or you don't. No shame involved. So, this is a condensed idea of design thinking, and it's clear and concise. We've got identity, discovery, action, and evaluation. And so, every time you might want to improve something in your life or expand something or change something, maybe we've just plateaued and we're just kind of bored and we want to do something different. There's there's four steps that you're going to want to take every time. And we can take a look at everything in our lives. We can take a look at all of the areas in our lives. And now we can have a lot of fun and we can get specific in the details and we can start to explore options. You now start to look at these areas and ideate. What am I doing that I really love? And what other things could I be doing that I would really love to do? There's one thing I do want to mention about a vision. When you have a vision, and the reason why a vision is so important, that you have a sense of what it is that you want. It's not only that you're going to be able to find it, but it's also that when you go through challenges, when you face obstacles, because that vision and desire is so strong, it helps you move through the challenge easier. You know why you're fighting for the thing that you want. Not that we're ever fighting for it, but you know why you're putting yourself through the challenge to finish the challenge. And that's really important when it comes to this phase, because as we start moving through, as we start looking at here are these areas in our lives, here's what I want to do, here's where I want to go, here's where I'm at right now. So, what are the steps? I've identified things that I want to do. Now I'm going to go research. What would it take for me to get from here to maybe the next step closer to that if I can't quite reach all of it? Or what would it take to get to that place? And how do I start moving along and experimenting, exploring this direction? And then we take action. So we've identified the things that we want, we've researched, we've discovered, we've done a discovery area, R&D, what steps, what tools that we need in this process. We take action. We show up to a class, we read a book, we learn a little bit more information, we talk to some people, we do something in that direction. We have an experience with that idea, and then we evaluate it. We maybe try, let's say we try a yoga class for a couple weeks, not just one, not just two, but we give it some time. And then we evaluate. We look at, do we have fun with this? Do we like this? Is this something we want to continue? And we repeat this cycle. We look at these steps. We have an evaluation process. It's nothing personal. We get to change our minds. We get to pivot. We get to keep what we love. We get to double down on it. We do this for every area of our life until we start molding and creating something that we love. And this system, this idea of contemplating and this higher perspective of all these areas of our life and being able to have this quick little process of going through these steps to move through the motions of taking little baby steps, little actions, little daily progresses towards what it is that we want. Within months, within a year, you're not going to have the same life. You couldn't possibly. It could take as quick as time as you want or as long as you want, depending on what it is that you figure out that you want to do and how you want to do it. And so I talk a lot about creativity and spirituality and that blend between the two and that creative wisdom, but we also need to have practicality in what we're doing and the sense that we can have everything that we want. We can design anything that we want. We can design our lives any way that we want. We can have whatever it is that we truly desire. We truly desire them for a reason, and we just have to work with ourselves to help make that come through because some of those things are really important for us. And we don't want to have a life where we look back and wish we had done certain things. And this can be at any point in time. It's never too late to do anything. So think about yourself as your universe, your little universe, and you can do whatever you want, all within reason. You can do whatever you want, and you can design the life that you want to have, and little by little. And you just show up every day in that little area and you nurture it as I know you know how to do. And over time, and quickly, if you want, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, you're going to see milestones hit that you didn't even know you were hitting because the goals weren't really about trying to get the goal. It's really about having the standard. It's about changing it so that you have a lifestyle that you love living and that the goals are just fun milestones to celebrate along the way because you've just kept going at it. So I hope this was of benefit. This helps me all the time. I love doing this and just contemplating and processing life. It's a 6 month journal that helps you map out areas of your life, helps you see where it is that you want to go. And then it gives you 6 months of daily entries that give you little bit of sweet spiritual nod and allows you to document your insights and what's going on for you. So it's not a lot of writing, but it's a way that I've always felt nice to keep specifically insights that I get, downloads that I get in a separate journal that I could reference that I feel like is really potent and important when we're trying to really build something that's magnificent. And we don't know what we're building because I feel like we're building our own mysteries as we move through this. And so sometimes we have to jot down these little bits and pieces, these little puzzle pieces that come down, and we can start to look back and see, I really got that insight and that intuition about this thing that I needed to do, or you can start to see how it plays together. And that only strengthens your intuition so that when you're guiding yourself and you're being soul-led and you're designing your life, you're honing in on this really high level. So links down below as well. Thank you all for being here. I love you all. I hope this was of benefit. This really is wonderful for me. This has really helped me change and transform careers, belief systems, lifestyles, everything I could think of because I just showed up every day for myself. And I know you can too. I know you want to. And with that, I will see you next time. Take care.